Well, before I went to do my hike for the day, while I was at camp last night, I looked around on the satellite maps of my area and saw that just a few miles down a side gravel road over this way, forest road, there was this big dark circle in the ground. A couple of them actually, but one of them was right next to the road and one of them was way off in the middle of nowhere. It'd take forever to get to. So I decided to drive over here and check it out because I thought there's a ton of volcanic activity in this area. There's just huge mounds of volcanic rock everywhere. And I thought maybe it was a volcanic crater. And it looks like that is what this is. There's just a gigantic volcanic crater on the ground here in the middle of nowhere that's not marked on any maps. And you would never know it was here unless you drove down this random side road you'd have no reason to ever go down, or if you looked on a satellite map. This is actually quite a large crater. Assuming this was some sort of volcanic chamber that collapsed, maybe? I don't really know that much about volcanoes, so don't know. Well, that's pretty interesting. And there are just endless fields of volcanic rock out here. It looks like dirt, but it is not. It is all volcanic rock. Huh. Well, I wasn't planning on actually doing much out here. I just wanted to come see what it was. And it is a volcanic crater. Starting out on the Virgin Rim Trail at Navajo Lake. And I'm gonna take the trail up to a saddle between two mountains and then climb up those two mountains. It's Navajo Peak and Andy Nelson Peak. Very nice area. She'll have some views of the lakes a little later. The lake looked pretty nice driving in. Much bigger than I was expecting. Very crowded though. There are 2 or 3 campgrounds on the way in and all of them said they were full and they all looked packed. But it is 4th of July weekend. Well, there's Andy Nelson Peak ahead of me here. The trail is going to curve around and go up to the saddle over there, and then I'll shoot off up that way. Looks like there are a lot of dead trees up there. They're going to make that very tedious bushwhack. So at this point, I think I leave the trail for either peak. This way for Andy Nelson, this way for Navajo. Theoretically, I could do Navajo first and then go up Andy Nelson on the way back and cut back down to go back. That would let me do a semi-loop trail for that section and not have to repeat that. I think that's actually what I'm going to do. So I'm going to continue on the trail actually. All of the GPS tracks that I found go up Navajo from this side, but I found one person who wrote a trip description that said if you wrap around to the far side and go up that side, then there aren't a million dead trees and it's a pretty painless bushwhack up to the top. And a bunch of other people, by a bunch I mean I think there are like 6 trip descriptions going up here that go back like 20 years, but they have all said that it is not a fun bushwhack going up this side because of all the dead trees. So I'm going to do what the one other person said and try to wrap around to the back and go up to that side. And then maybe I'll come down this side to make it a loop. The trail I'm on, the Virgin River Rim Trail, it's going past the end of Navajo Peak, is back up that way, but I don't want to start cutting up yet still. It looks like right after it gets past Navajo Peak, it curves to the right and gains a bunch of elevation again. I assume it's going to go up on another saddle. So once I get up to that saddle, once I'm well past Navajo Peak, I'll backtrack and go up the ridge on that side of Navajo Peak. I think that's going to be the easiest route up there. It's going to add about an extra mile of hiking, but if it avoids terrible bushwhacking through unending deadfall, that will definitely be worth it. This was definitely the way to go. Very easy ascent, gradual from this side. I don't think I've had to walk further than 10 feet out of the way to go around any big trees. It's a little bit hazy, but it does not look like there are any new large fires started in my immediate area, at least, from fireworks last night. I am very glad I wrapped around to the backside and came up that way. Thank you to whoever the person online was who suggested that. I think it was a woman who has a blog called Beyond My Couch, possibly. Every other trip description comes up the other way through all the deadfall, and this seems so much better, even if it involves a little more hiking. And I'm assuming this is the high point, so it actually wasn't further in from the edge like I was expecting it to be. I think the topographical map shows it in a little further. So good thing I came over here to walk along the edge. Is this a thermos? Yeah, it's a huge Coleman thermos someone has used for the trail register. Another USGS survey marker, 1938 again. Let's see if I can figure out how to get this thing open. I'm curious how often this actually gets climbed. Okay, what do we got in here? We got Carhartt beer koozie. Okay, interesting. We got trail register. Oh, Vertical George. Is he the most recent one up here? Yep. We got October 25. Then Vertical George is the most recent one. First Mount Division Smoky Bear Unit, Navajo Peak, 9,070 feet, 65 of 70. 65 of 70 what? What 70 mountains is he climbing? This was 65. No idea. I'll look into that in a minute, see what else we got in here. We got business card for the BLM field manager for the field office manager for the field office for the area. Never seen that before. That's interesting. Got a pencil. We have an empty Ziploc baggie, a feather, and a rock. Okay, someone must have thought that was a good rock. Alright, so let's see what we got on the trail register. Okay, so the most recent one's Vertical George going back. We got 6/14/25, 6/3/25, 10/24. So there were only 2 people climbed it last year. October 24. I think Allison might have been the one that wrote the blog that I read that suggested coming up the other way. So if so, thank you, Allison. This is the oldest one, is 12. So this goes back all the way to 2012. Looks like it gets climbed a couple times a year on average. 24 was a busy year. There were like 12 people up here, but like, I think every other year had 1 or 2 people in it. And it looked like I'm the second or third one this year. Yeah, Vertical George. No, second one. Yeah, me and Vertical George are the only ones so far this year. Interesting. Ugh. Well, I'll add my name to that. I would have thought this would have get climbed more than twice a year, being this close to Navajo Lake down there. But people don't like climbing mountains that don't have a trail that goes to the top. If you have to bushwhack, people won't do it. So it only gets climbed a couple times a year. Probably doesn't help that Zion National Park is right over there, that everyone goes to. This just isn't a very, very popular place, but still twice a year is pretty low. There's Andy Nelson across the way. I'm just gonna go straight down the side here and then straight up that side. If I could choose again, I would go down the other side again, even if it meant walking an extra mile out of the way, because this is miserable. I want to be going that way, way that way, and that is the way all of the GPS tracks I had seen had gone, but all of the trees are exactly laid out to make it extremely hard to go that way. And it's not that hard to cut diagonally down this way. So I'm just cutting diagonally down. I'll intersect with the Virgin River Rim Trail right down here. And it'll be slightly longer, but so much easier than going over all of that deadfall that was all laying the exact wrong way to prevent you from going where you wanted to go. If you are going to go up and down this side, I would recommend doing it from slightly around the side here instead of straight up from the saddle like everyone else did. It's going to be like a 3-minute walk to get back over there, and that is totally worth it to avoid all that. But going around the back is still the best way, by far. Back to the saddle on the main trail for just a minute and immediately leaving it. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. I don't see any nest out here. Huh, must have just been resting there. And another one. Okay, here's where I try to find the least thick way. What is with these pheasants? Okay, I just want to go up wherever the path of least resistance is. Apparently this is just Pheasant City in here. There's yet another one up there. I'm not trying to chase you, but I need to go up that way. Good grief. Okay. If you were a summit marker on top of a big flat mountain, where would you be? In the middle? Or is there going to be a tiny 3-foot hill somewhere? There it is, I see it. In the middle. I was afraid there's going to be a little 3-foot hill somewhere that was technically the high point on the edge. And I was going to have to search all over for it. Alright, let's see what we got over here. There is a very old rusted can. There's no way there's a summit register in here, right? There's something in there. There's no way. I'm not messing around with this red rusted can. It's not a summit register. It's like a stick in there. There is no summit register. Huh. I really thought there would have been one. That's too bad. I wanted to see how much more often county high points get climbed than better nearby other peaks. Oh well. Well, I'm going to reassemble this and then have a walk around the outside and see if there's any good views. This summit, though, Andy Nelson, I had looked up, seemed like a weird name for a mountain. They're not usually like full names unless they're very famous people. So I had looked up where the name for this peak came from, and it was fairly difficult to find, but eventually I found an old archived article explaining that in 1996 the Salt Lake Tribune held a contest in their newspaper. There were 3 county high points in the state of Utah that didn't have names. So they held a contest to name the 3 unnamed county high points, and this was one of them. And the name that won for this one was Andy Nelson Peak, which was named for Andrew Nelson, who was a surveyor in the area out here for his whole life. He was born in 1888 and died in 1965. So 30 years after he died, they voted to name this high point for him. In general, this was a very nice hike. Thank you to Vertical George for recommending it. I don't know that I care about having come up here. I might as well. It's nice up here. If I was already up on that saddle down there, then sure, I'll come up here. But if I were only going to do one of these 2 points, unless you are specifically collecting highest peaks in counties, Navajo is a much nicer summit. And there is so much deadfall coming down this way. That is a ways down. Even though this is much less distance, I think it probably should have just gone back down the same way I came. The amount of deadfall over here is just making this so slow. At this point, I think I have to be getting close to the trail. I thought this was going to be it at first, but it doesn't look like it. This looks thick. Oh, there it is. Excellent. Okay, getting real tired of that bushwhacking. All the fallen trees were making that less than pleasant. Okay, back on the Virgin River Rim Trail. Should just be easy hike back maybe 2 miles or so to the car from here. Today's hike ended up being 6.4 miles, 1,200 feet of elevation gain in 3 hours and 20 minutes. Very nice hike. Thank you to Vertical Liquid George for suggesting it.